Hello, everyone. This is Lorna Sikorsky. I'm here to welcome you to a product spotlight web today, a short 30-minute survey of our best-selling series, the MEEC, with a focus on downloads. What I'd like to do right this minute is just to check to see if you can hear me well, whether you can see me at this point. I am muting all of the mics during this event. May unmute them for questions, but that is primarily going to be what we're doing with the chat window. So I'd like to make sure that you can use the chat window. It should be off to your right, and I'll be looking for your questions and comments to come in as we go forward. And I'll probably turn off the video here and there so that we can focus on the screens and keep the attention on the visuals that we're going to be using today. So we'll start in just a moment or two. I'm going to close the visual from me and the mic for a second while we get the last few questions from attendees who are just brainstorming how-tos. Okay, well, welcome. And as I said, we are going to be looking at the Mastering Effective English Communication series and looking very specifically at the 6th edition download options because we get numerous questions on those particular formats, and this is a great way to start giving you some more detailed information about that. My intent today is to essentially do a whirlwind tour to look at these issues, and the first global comment that I would like to make is that the MEEC exists in two planes, if you will. First of all, along the left-hand side, you can see the hard copy cover visuals, although you do actually see those title pages in the downloadables. But we have print workbooks and historically have had the CD option. And there are 13 CDs in the series. Well, when we came out with the 6th edition of it, we were responding to huge changes in technology and demands from not only my clients, but just a general global concept of what people really needed for instruction, and that's what I was responding to. Since we had that 6th edition turnover, we have historically seen most trainers opting for print workbooks and then taking advantage of downloadable audio. MP3s, if you will, audio that you can put in your iTunes collection or wherever else you might have it. So we frequently see that. But there's another side to this, and that is the fully downloadable editions. And one of the key issues here is that I was not interested in what I would call a flat PDF. I know from historically looking at adult learning issues that you must have an interaction between the learner and the material. If you're going to use visual material, there has to be a high degree of touch, even if that's the wrong word for downloadable, you might think. But I wanted to maximize that. Now, many of you probably already utilize uh, downloadable audio, or I guess maybe books on CD or tape, but probably downloadable materials for your Nooks or Kindles, or maybe even for your iPad, and doing it from the library. But that is not adequate for learning. And so we opted to go for an Adobe format, but even those are quite varied in terms of how robust they are. So we were looking more for an EPUB kind of edition where individuals would really have a high degree of interaction with the material. Well, what I'd like to do is get into the look and feel of units and use the various publications to get into the visuals of the materials. I thought that would be the best way to show you. Now, let's make a global comment here about content. The content essentially is the same between the print editions and the downloadable editions. In fact, the people who buy the print editions get to have some of the bonus applications, the bonus PDFs and learner tools that come with each of these volumes anyway. But it is the ability to manipulate content that probably is one of the strong suits, I think, of the download edition. So let's get started. Is a concept that exists in each of the volumes. And if we use the intonation patterns as our starting pool, what I'd like to do is show you the content, look at how the exercises, what the range of exercises is, the CD directory, finding icons, and just what are the extras that we're talking about. So I'm going to switch out of the PowerPoints here and open up the intonation book to get at some of these issues. So we're going to do a whirlwind walkthrough. Again, I'd like to encourage you to really exercise the chat window or click the raised hand, which I'm sure you probably have, so that I can respond to your questions as well as we go through this. First of all, there's always an opening overview of the content, and I think, I suspect, I'm going to put this up a bit larger point size because we can do that here. But what you can probably see is that when you wave over something in this particular format, and if you've done a good job of creating or exercising all the bells and whistles that you have in a PDF, then you should be able to use this as a cursor to hop around and look at different concepts. And that is one of the key issues. If we scroll down to the bottom, we have a key component here. How am I doing? that is a new element in the materials, and we'll show you later. But in essence, it is an ongoing self-evaluation that you would hope that your individuals would continually play with. Well, the next thing that every book has in common is exercises. And once again, what do you want when you are the instructor? A fast way to not only see the number, which isn't worth much, but to see quickly at a scan, okay, what chapter is it in? What's the content of that? And let me jump right to that. I think as you are interacting with your clients, if you really are truly using some of these things, you find that you move quicker to the meat of what your activities are. Well, the next thing relates to the title that I just mentioned, this getting started. And again, you have a CD directory. Well, we've always had that, but I think two things I want to point out is just how many tracks are on each CD. Because if you are working with learners, I think it's myself, I find it totally worthless with any language learning tools I've had in the past to have a CD play on for 30 minutes with no real way to interrupt unless you are opening it on a computer where you can stop and backtrack. If you are really trying to practice isolated things, then to have a small track that you can keep replaying is an excellent use of your time. So that's one of the keys that we also had in this particular volume, is making the CD markers much larger, so that you can find it faster. I know that was important to me. And the quick at a glance, being able to see when CDs or tracks exist and not exist when you're in the middle of material, very important. Another thing we tried to do is to have practice hints that certainly are going to be on the audio, but it's also important to call your client's attention to them. And I thought, well, here's a great idea. Let's make an index or have in the index a list of practice hints. That was something that I felt was going to be worthwhile. Well, in terms of iconing, I think even though the print editions are in color, I have to admit, there is something really vibrant about these colors on most people's devices. And these icons that we have, for example, for keywords, really stand out. I'm going to slide down to the bottom to look at some other key issues that we'll address later. This whole idea of what are the top words, which words in all of these lists should we bother with, and then narrowing the focus further by looking at the top 10s, let's say. Those are all new elements. And of course, feedback not only from you, but from the individuals who are using it is a really important thing. Well, the personal templates that we talked about up front, when you have it as a download, and the instructor does too, is really beneficial to both parties. I use the downloadables with clients, and they have them on their devices, and they're constantly adding to this, actually filling in elements. And we have personal vocabulary lists and the self-evaluation, for example, that we were talking about is a place where they can actually mark the pages, as I mentioned earlier. And then that's essentially how we define the getting started elements. Well, if we go from there and look at some of the other issues, I'd like to take a typical chapter and talk about the title page and how you exercise the fill-ins and integrating the key codes and the icons. I think that would be a smart way to go next. So I'm going to take a look at these issues from the standpoint, again, still of the intonation book, and let's poke around in there and open a chapter and see what we can discover about the layout and design. So I'm going to move ahead to further on in the intonation book and get more of a typical chapter so that we can see the page layout, because this is an area that I think a lot of you aren't maximizing as well either. So let's take a look at the chapter 2 in the intonation book, because here is a good example of repeated, what do they call it? Repeated graphic design that gets people to plan their learning. And we always have the chapter title page laid out the same way. I think a really important feature that you may not be using as much is this idea of telling your students, where are we going? So in this particular chapter, you can see what are the areas that we're going to be covering. And notice how it was a little tricky to do, but you want to make the content a little more telegraphic and powerful that way, to just really cut to the chase and say, this is what we're going for. And the same applies for the chapter 2 goals. Now, when you are an instructor, just being able to pull these up on a dime for wherever you're going, or maybe you're buried in the chapter and want to come back to the goals, this is a really good thing to go through to kind of remind yourself, all right, what are we trying to do here? What is the function that we want our clients to be able to pull together? Well, then each chapter then talks about if there are any interactive aids, and it is in places like this where people can actually type in keywords, or even better, you want them to either within the book that they're working on, or on the downloadable form, just sit there after you've worked for a while and say, well, let's go back and see how you did last week on this. What do you think? How are you doing on the 8 basic patterns? And I don't necessarily interact with them on this. I make them write it. And let them put their own notations on it, and make comments, and then these sit there in their material, and they can go back and use them and update them. The minute you hop into a table, you can change content. Another great thing is, you know, when you have a print edition, you print in it, and then what if they change? Well, we used to tell our clients to write it in pencil, or at least I would, and to put their keywords down, and then we'd say, oh, you know what, that doesn't really, that's not the best keyword. Let's change that. Well, this makes it so much easier to not only change keywords, but add words. Um, and I know someone is just asked a question about the download access points. I will, or the mechanics of downloading, I will tap into that shortly. So hang in there. But in a nutshell, everybody can put it on 3 devices, and we'll check that a little bit later. Well, the other function is this whole idea of the red words, those that are in the top 2,400, top 1,200 really applies well to the vowels and the intonation patterns because of their less complex structures, and so that covers the lion's share. And only rarely do we up the ante here to something more than that. We'll show that in a bit. But we do want clients to really make an effort to update these lists, freshen them up, take words out of there. Say, you know, I don't need to practice that one anymore. Let me dig into something else. And that's a really smart use of your time. Well, if we go to the next volume, the consonant volume, I'll show briefly the layout and their exercises, but one of the things we want to know is what they do, what they have in that one for you and for your learner. So I did get one question. For some reason, I'm not able to write in the book. I know exactly what that is right now. It's we've become a fountain of information on issues like that, and I suspect the problem is it's not really downloaded. In other words, you are opening it, but you have not formally downloaded it to a specific location in your on your computer. And I know I think this is from a Mac user, but I have that is a kind of hidden extra step on Macs and iPads, and you actually need to save it in an Adobe directory, and then it becomes a bona fide document. So that is very specifically, I know for a fact that's probably what it is. You think it's downloaded, but it isn't really. Great question, but just goes to show that the technology is worth spending a bit of time taking a peek at. Well, if we look at the content of the consonant book, I think one of the key issues for the consonants, and let me open that screen, is how to really go through the mechanics of the opening chapter. And I think what's interesting about the templates here is that you can really have tables that are printable. They can interact with them, but any of the bonus downloads are also printable, and that is an important element. So one of the things that people were saying, well, I know there's bonuses, but where do I find these in the book? You'll see a symbol like this every time there's a download that they should have. So it's a great way for them to put the content here, but let's say you're talking to them on the phone. They might not have their book with them. I had them put their bonus downloads on their devices like a phone as well, because that's an easy element to put on a phone, because it's simply a much smaller PDF, and you actually can see it visually well on that. So that's a good thing. Well, in terms of What's unique about the consonant book? I would say the biggest issue is the changing scope of what is a good enough handle on the vocab. And the vocabulary in the consonant book is a bit more significant. The consonant book also has a lot more commentary that is specific to some of the grammar-related issues. So that is an important element. Another, I'm just scrolling through to have you look at things. When you get, there was a difference between keywords and key code. And that's what we're getting at here. The symbols actually change color so that they can equate it with rules of the game. And once again, this is an issue that you can focus on very specifically and find very specifically. I'm going to jump ahead to the index to show you. I'm going to move this forward a bit and look at indexing. So I think that is the next key issue I don't think that instructors take advantage of is helping their clients figure out where things are. So for example, remember we talked about goals. I'm going to put this up much bigger here. And we talked about how you could have a goal. Well, if you look under the G's, there is goals right there that you can see. And just brief words, you can make it a game. Where would I find rules? Well, you can rules for R and have them hunt it down. I think understanding the mechanics of what you're manipulating is a really important element of the learning process. So that becomes a key thing that you really should pursue. Well, I'm going to go forward from here and talk about what's unique about the vowels and talk about what content is that visually you might want to be able to look at easier. So let me pull that up and switch over to the vowel book so we can see where that is going. I think if I open it up here, one of the things that you begin to see in some of these books, and let me pull this up a little bit larger here, maybe even larger than that, and take a look, and I will scroll it down a bit, at just how we phrase the goals. And I think some of you have expressed some kind of haziness and how to suggest, well, this is where we're headed. Well, go to school on the goals that are already listed for you and decide, okay, this is something I'm prioritizing. So either in these words or my own, I'm going to push this right to the forefront. Another thing that we look at, and let me move this back a bit, if we, they have the personal vocabulary by the specific vowel sounds, but the reevaluating yourself really begins to get very specific in some of these chapters, and it does fluctuate. I think, you know, every time you're working, if you're only working with a few of the front vowels and you're done with that for the day, you should say, well, let's reevaluate how you're doing on this. and I asked them point blank, where do you find that? Let's do the how am I doing? Where do you find that? Oh, I don't know. Well, make them get more and more comfortable with how they are manipulating that. Again, in the layout and design of chapters, I think another key area is the commonly used words. And I think that is something that you really need to take advantage of, since you have it in the vowel chapter. In each of the vowel chapters, you've got lots of extra vocabulary that might be very valuable for you to use, and we have it occurring over and over again. Another question I get many times as people are using materials is they put things down in a static way and don't redo them. And that becomes a really important issue to make sure you are doing. The other thing you want to take a look at is any of the previews. We added that as part of a learning technique to say, okay, well, I still want you to work a bit here, but we're going to go into another segment, and then tell them why. What are they going to do differently in another chapter? And the books are loaded with questions like this that engage your person and say, okay, what do you think? Should we start with your toughest sound or your best sound? What do you like to work on first? That's an intriguing question to have your client answer and see, oh, especially if they say, oh, I don't have a good sound. Then it's really important for you to go through with that. Well, finally, I think what I'd like to do is talk about the downloading process itself and see what that is all about. It's actually not that difficult, but a walkthrough might be helpful. First of all, you just need to order the right thing. And certainly when you order print, you can always opt for the downloadable audio. Saves you a little money, saves you a little shipping rate. But if you want the fully downloadable edition, you'll know it has a -D. You'll get we'll talk about confirmations of that, the license numbers, and you get the information to your learners, and talk about what is a license anyway. So you go into the store, and where do you find it? Under downloadable products, or just literally put it here in the quick find box. And once you know product numbers, that's easy for you to do and move quickly. Well, here is what it looks like. There's another symbol, download symbol. Those of you that are preferred trainers obviously will add discounts, and anyone who orders in multiples knows that the pricing drops significantly even between 1 and 2. Well, just to take a look, I thought it would be interesting to look at an invoice, because many of you haven't tried it yet, but this is an individual who ordered the 1070D that's up here, but they ordered in the 5 to 10 range. Well, what do we get? How do I know how to deal with my clients on this? One of them's for me, this gal said, but you know, other people are going to take some of these licenses. Well, we have a line item that says, here are your license numbers. Save these, save your invoice, and we'll keep track on our end. But these are all your license numbers, and you give them away. I suppose it might get a little hairy if you order like a number of people, 11 to 15 at a time, but usually we probably will give them a kind of a spreadsheet or a quick Excel that they can keep the content on. And that's probably what I would do if I were you and you had numerous licenses. I just keep track of them on any Word doc. I gave this one to this person, etc. You get an invoice copy that always says this. Please see your license number. You have the ability to send it to anybody at will. Hang on to it for as long as you want. That is also your option. We also attach an info template to either keep in your records, which would probably be the smart thing to do, or to modify. So let's take a look at what that looks like. It'll be a two-part letter like this. I made the second page a little bit bigger, but it basically will have your license number and gives you some feedback here. What we tell people is that these licenses are done via the email address. So whoever owns the license, is given the license, is assigned the license, emails us and says, here's the address they email, you reference this number, and it's kind of funny. Some people who are really experienced at this, you can tell, the end user, those notes come to us quite clearly. I think the big issue is that we fill those within 48 hours. So within 48 hours of your giving it to your client, provided they have turned around and immediately emailed us, we turn it around pretty quick. This is an example of a letter that we've gotten. I've whited out certain things, but this is very typical. Can I get access? A lot of them name their instructor. Some provide other information that's kind of fun. And then in return, they get a series of emails from our server at Hightail. Most of the time, we also would respond to someone's request and say, great, we just sent that out. Please check your spam folder if you haven't found it in your inbox. And then some very straight instructions for how to download. It makes no difference whether we are talking Mac or PC. They download beautifully on iPad as well. And every owner of a license number can download on up to 3 different devices. Now, one of the trainers told me, well, I don't really have 3 devices. And she said, I've got an iPad and I've got my computer. And I said, well, do you have a phone? And, well, yeah, of course. And I said, well, then why not put this in the audio files on your phone or in iTunes? That way, the audio is not specifically for you, but the audio is great for spot checking how your students are practicing. And I really strongly encourage the learners to put the audio on their phones, because that's where they're listening to music, and to create playlists on the fly. One of the things, while I've opened the chat window for questions, if you have any for me here, one of the things that I have to tell you, in the 1 year since we began the downloading, we have extremely few individuals, end users, learners, who have any trouble at all downloading, nor do they complain about how the books look or the audio looks on their side. But I will suggest that there are a number of you who are quite hesitant to suggest that your clients actually go for the download option, fully downloadable option. I think that many of your users may really prefer it. They are so used to manipulating files on their iPads, for example, and are often carrying those without carrying paper to meetings, etc. Now, there is certainly a place for print still, but I think it's time to really simplify your life, if nothing else, even if you want your clients to use this, the print, let's say, and the audio on download. I think it's advantageous for you to walk around with less. And I think once you become very comfortable with the materials, you will move around in materials much faster. So there's no time like the present, so I have a suggestion for you that would apply even if you already have your own set. You can use the license for somebody else, but we know that some of you are less than confident about how to manipulate your own download. So we've got a plan. If you order at least one of the 1070Ds now, you'll save 25%, which is very good across, no matter whether you're a PT or with lots of levels under your belt, or you are a major account holder. This will probably beat most of your bulk ordering until you get to at least 10 units. And concurrently with that, you can reserve a seat in a 60-minute webinar that I'm doing for these buyers. And there are 2 dates, and the links are in your materials list. But it's intentional that the buying is now and the download is now and the web is much later, because whether you're holding on to this license for a student, as long as you have one, I want you to really start playing with that, because then you'll be ready for the wealth of practice tips and usage issues that are the basis, or that come from all the questions we have gotten over time in the last year. So your materials link will have a link to the actual invoice to use for that, and a link to that special webinar to reserve a spot in. And I've already got a question, well, what if I can't go? It will be recorded, and you will have access to that no matter what. So as long as you are willing to use it shortly, you can do that. Your materials list will probably is here now, and probably you can access in your reminder emails, but you will get another one shortly with this recording link as well. And I think that'll about do it. I'm looking for any questions. This webinar is for anyone who buys a downloadable 1070. So if you've already have your own edition, then as long as you buy one and hold it for a future client, the license numbers don't expire, you can attend the web for free. So this is that's the that's the offer that we have for this right now. Let me see if there are any other questions. Somebody asked how long it takes to download the audio. Uh, the audio are done one CD at a time, so I think that's the real benefit. That should not take you that long. Certainly, if you're going to put it on 3 different devices, uh, you know, you would be doing this at different times, but you have a pretty long window of time to do your downloading. Another question that came in, if somebody doesn't get their act together to download in the window, can they still do it? They just need to write to us and ask us again if they can have an extension on their download time. And yes, they can do it. Another question that came in, once the license is assigned to someone, it's theirs. There's no transfer of the license number. So probably the smart thing would be to suggest to your students or make sure that that money is collected if you're dealing with that and that's part of your class fee, that you are not allowing them to get that refundable, because it's theirs. It's theirs for life. Somebody asked just now if they change machines. It looks like that. I think that's what this is. If you suddenly change computers, can you redo the license? Yes. You would just need to get a hold of us and give us the details, at best to tell us roughly when you got it so we can hunt it down. All right. That looks like all the questions. I thank you for meeting up with us today, and we'll hope to see you in that webinar really soon. As I said, you should be able to access that. Somebody asked again where this stuff is. So look in your materials links that even if you leave the web now, you should see the materials link from the reminder, or you'll get it in an hour with the post-event thank you. All right, everyone, we will catch you later. Take care.